All right, welcome back, everybody. So normally my channel is all about books and Dungeons and Dragons and anything that could possibly exercise your brain to be creative, but I do have a day job. And what I want to talk about is something we came across at that day job. Cybercrime impacts everybody. If it doesn't directly impact you, it increases cost to do business. It increases all kinds of problems across the board, especially in banking. So I'm the chief technology officer of a company that runs the One for All social site. Doug is actually our longest standing employee. I think our first one actually. I asked Doug to come on because he has a little bit of background in a different part of cybercrime than I do. We came across a new one recently that I had never seen before. And because we run a social media website, it has a lot of people's stuff in it. We try to stay up to date as we can on both cybercrime, what's going on, how to eradicate it, and how to keep it off our site. But this one was weird. So I want to urge people with some caution. And we checked around. I had never seen it before. This was brand new. What's going on is cyber criminals are now getting access to an email at a small or medium-sized company and opening up job application or job positions, job postings at Indeed, at Monster, at a bunch of others, in the hopes of getting resumes for people who would qualify for a engineering or very senior level position in the sales and marketing side. And what I think they're trying to do is take those resumes and say, okay, let's gather as much personally identifying information off of here we can, try to match it with other stuff and take some good guesses on some information with that person. And can you use that to manipulate it and go off and gather enough to do some interesting crime with? Um, it first popped up because it happened to us, and we noticed it when I was getting push notifications in email to the info at email address at our company, and it was coming to my phone, and then I go to that email and there was nothing there. So they were going in and deleting the incomings as fast as they were getting them because they had access to it too. So I went into the Microsoft account because we use Microsoft for email and said, okay, who's all logged in? Because you can actually check that. And it showed people where I am because I know where I physically reside. I know where I'm at normally. Okay, it shows those, right? It also showed a couple hundred miles north of me and one out in California. So I'm like, okay, those aren't me, right? So you start disconnecting those, change all the passwords, put in two-factor authorization, and that solves the problem. But now I'm getting people that are calling us saying, hey, I applied for that position. And this particular cybercrime really bothers me in a lot of ways because number one, it attacks individuals based on a demographic that they're probably much more likely to get something out of at least a credit history. It can be very damaging to people's reputation, and you're really just annoying people that are looking for a job. So you're taking up a large amount of the time away from people who need to go find a new position, and time is everything to them. So we've got it shut down, but this one was new. I'd never seen this. Doug, had you ever heard of anything like this?
Not to this level to where they're getting into a business and trying to extract the business operators or the business owners or the business executives information. What I was used to with financial crimes was always it was more from a debit card perspective or a banking perspective where they were trying to get somebody's name, the basics, name, date of birth, social, anything that they could use then to turn around and open up new accounts. So we were always had different strategy in how we would structure everything from our UIs to the database on how the data was separated and segregated and not easily attainable. But I've been more of the exposed to the let me get this person's information so that I can then extrapolate and open up accounts and do financial crimes, specifically an individual. This is really interesting because it's like they've profiled the business owners to say, okay, well, these people are more likely to have a better credit rating or more ability to, open new accounts or go further, so to speak, with a person of this profile, as opposed to just John Doe off the streets or Jane Doe off the street, so to speak, right?
Yeah, because the job postings they were putting out there, and I've gotten every one of them I found removed, were very senior positions. I mean, these were not, hey, entry level this. This was C-suite, vice president level kind of stuff. So they were going after very senior people who are making real money. Um,
Higher
and when I
chances of those people having a six-figure income, so to speak, potentially, So.
yeah, and something to lose, right? So it to me, I was like, wow, okay. And then when I started digging into it a little bit more, I bounced it off some other people I know that are entrepreneurial types and like, yeah, I've never seen that, but I have seen, and it was always sort of similar to this. But the one that really kind of got me was this one was very specifically also kind of going after job seekers, right? So it was posting on all these job boards. And if they've got into our email system, which is they're now completely out, it was interesting because number one, we use Microsoft security for email, so it's not even our security, right? It's somebody else's. But number two, it really kind of it bothered me because I've been in a position where I was looking for a new job before, and it takes a lot of time to do that. So if you're wasting time on non-existent positions, that's a big problem. So I would urge people, if you're looking for a position and you're on Indeed, you're on Monster, you're on wherever, also check out that company's website and see if there's something listed on that website. Because if it's listed on the job board and not over on the website, that could be an indication there's something freaky going on. And if nothing else, drop an email to the company, and even if it's a smaller medium company, somebody like Doug or I is going to get it and be like, "What is this?" No, it's not, right? So, protect your information as much as you can. But this one is an interesting and evolving problem.
When you think
Um,
about what's on a resume, when you put it on there, right away is gonna be your name, your phone number, probably your address, right? Definitely an email address. So
mhm.
now they've got other points to try to attack and get in.
Yeah, I mean, mine actually has my home address on it, right? So, which is not something I disclose very often, but sure enough, if I'm looking for a job, I'm like, yeah, here's where I live, right? Just go ahead.
Right.
It's got my all my contact information on it. It's got everything you need. And with a last name like Imholt, it's not hard to find me anyway. But if you want to match that up with other information, you can pretty well do it. And what was interesting to me was after I started shutting them down, I started getting shutting down their access. I started getting threatening emails from cyber criminals going, "Oh, we've got pictures of you. We're going to send them to your wife and to your parents and embarrass you," which I thought was funny because I'm not married and then my parents have both passed away. So I was like, all right, go ahead. Just see if I care, right? But to anybody else, I'm like, first off, if you have pictures of me, you really are going to be pretty bored because, like you really need a hobby if you're out trying to take pictures of me. But the second part was, that was a pretty interesting leap for them to take, was to then start threatening the guys just shutting down their access to other people's information. So, um, you know, con men have existed since the dawn of creation. They're not going anywhere.
Not
But
going.
what I found, the more I think about this one, and Doug, I'd love to hear your take on this. I think people have gotten better at protecting their personal information to the point where this kind of stuff becomes necessary, right? So you used to be able to just grab it all over the place. And I think people have just become cognizant of it now. And one-time passwords and two-factor authorizations and all that kind of stuff becoming really common. So I think people have pretty much got a handle on it.
Yes and no. I think people have gotten better, at least from an internet perspective, right? And just the advent of the day that we're all, using our phones and we're on our computers, and
Mhm.
we know, oh, more people are cognizant of, oh, I need to change that password, or I need to make sure that's not something simple. It can't just be my daughter's name, or it can't just be something, or my birthday, or a password can't be password. So there's a little bit more heightened public sensitivity to it. I think what people need to be looking more at, and I hate to say pay for services, but there are services out there that can help quite a bit more, like your Life Locks and your Experian, the ID Protect, and things like that. I use a couple, and we're not promoting anyone in particular here, but I I think those are good because those actually go out and do some of the removal for you, and also send you great updates of, hey, this password's been compromised by these different services or databases. So make sure you go either delete that account, change that password, etc. So
Mhm.
think we're a step ahead than we were maybe 10 years ago, even. But I think we can take another step forward to be
I
better
think
caretakers of our data.
I think you're right. And what was it, 10 or 12 years ago, the IRS database got hacked. So, they had everybody's name and social security number. So if it is a group, if, let's say the group doing this had that access to the IRS database, they've got social security numbers. Now, if you can line it up with address, contact information, everything else, that actually is another step that could possibly sneak through like the Experians of the world when you're applying for credit.
I can
Uh,
talk about this now real quickly. About 2009, I was involved in a fraudulent, well, as part of the team bringing down the fraudulent case where at the time, a certain county in Florida, their website had it was a jail website where you could go and look up any inmate who was in there if you were looking for a family member, somebody. But the problem was when you found them, that data that was available at the time on that person was their name, their date of birth, their social security number, their home address. So literally some fraudsters took all this information and went through a company I was working in partnership with and issued debit cards to these people. And they created a whole scam where they were doing IRS tax refunds, fraudulent IRS tax refunds onto cards in these people's using these people's identities, and then getting the cards, hitting the ATMs, taking out as much as they can. They got 2.1 million from the government before we shut them down, and actually got their hands on about 800 grand in cash. All because a website just had all their information out there. Those people today are safer because why? Part of the we went through the case, I testified. The guys that did it were put behind bars. Part of their payback was that they had to pay all the victims purchase an identity theft package for them online. And I think at the time it was LifeLock or something like that. But yeah,
Excellent. So yeah, what I'm saying is just everybody stay alert. These things are not going away. You know, you could say, oh, here's the foolproof method of getting rid of a cyber criminal. I guarantee you there'll be somebody out there who tries to figure out a way around it. Con men have existed since the dawn of creation, and they're not going away.
and we'll figure out the new ways to get into your stuff. So you just got to stay vigilant.
Yeah, and I post when I come across one, I tend to post it sporadically on Twitter and on YouTube. This is going on YouTube. And you know, the company, we try to post how to stay safe on social media. So if you follow me on Twitter, which is just at Timothy M. Holter, on YouTube at Timothy M. Holter, the company, which is if you go to o4a.com, all of our links to our social sites are at the bottom because they're a little bit different on each site. But yeah, we tend to keep online safety stuff laying around, in addition to some fantastic social media services, right? So if you want to check out our site, 60 days are free. But and you don't have to put in a credit card, so you can keep all your personal information perfectly safe when you're on our site for at least those first 2 months. And then we use Stripe, so it's not, we don't even keep your credit card information. We use somebody else for that. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great day and stay safe.